While racing against time to secure a multi-million-dollar contract, a powerful CEO accidentally tore his expensive suit. Worried that his flawless image would be ruined in front of a demanding client, he rushed into a rundown tailor shop, hoping for a quick fix. The moment he stepped inside, he was immediately drawn to the skill, craftsmanship, and unyielding resilience of the single mother and her young son who ran the shop. To repay them for their kindness in repairing his suit for free, he made an important decision, one that would mend not only the fabric but also the heavy burdens they had been carrying. Before we dive deeper into this story, let me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming stories every day. Lucas Bennett checked his Patek Philippe for the third time in 2 minutes. 3:47 p.m. The meeting with Continental Industries was at 4:30, 43 minutes to secure the $50 million contract that would either cement his legacy or become a cautionary tale in business school case studies. "Sir, there's been a major accident on the expressway," his driver announced, voice tight with concern. "We're completely stopped." Lucas leaned forward, peering through the windshield at the sea of brake lights stretching endlessly ahead. Boston's infamous rush hour traffic had transformed into a parking lot. His jaw clenched as sweat began to bead along his temples despite the air conditioning running at full blast. His phone buzzed. Richard Lawson, of course. "Just arrived at Continental. Beautiful conference room, Lucas. Shame you're not here to see it. Eleanor Whitmore just walked in. She's very punctual, you know. The Japanese appreciate that." Lucas didn't dignify the message with a response. Richard had been circling this deal like a vulture for months, waiting for any opening to swoop in. The smug bastard had probably paid someone to cause the accident. No, that was paranoia talking. But Richard would absolutely capitalize on Lucas's absence. Another glance at his watch. 3:51 p.m. 39 minutes. The numbers on his phone's GPS mocked him 2.7 miles. Under normal circumstances 8 minutes. Today, the estimate had climbed to 45 minutes and counting. Lucas closed his eyes, forcing himself to breathe. He'd built Bennett Technologies from a 2-person startup in his garage to a firm with 300 employees and annual revenue of $120 million. He'd survived the 2008 crash, pivoted through the pandemic, outmaneuvered competitors twice his size. Was he really going to lose everything because of traffic? His phone buzzed again. This time, a message from his assistant Sarah. "Eleanor Whitmore's assistant just confirmed she'll only wait until 5 p.m. She has a flight to Tokyo. This is your only shot, Lucas." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. Eleanor Whitmore wasn't just any client, she was the CEO of Continental Industries, a woman whose business card alone opened doors across 3 continents. Landing this contract meant expansion into Asian markets, legitimacy among the old money elite who still looked at self-made millionaires like Lucas as upstarts playing dress-up. And she was Japanese. Sarah had briefed him extensively. Punctuality wasn't just valued, it was sacred. Appearance mattered. First impressions were everything. Lucas looked down at his Armani suit, custom tailored, $5,000 of Italian wool and silk that fit him like a second skin. At least he looked the part. "How far are we from the Prudential Center?" he asked suddenly. "About 3 miles, sir, but I'm getting out." "Mr. Bennett, you can't." But Lucas was already opening the door, stepping into the chaos of honking horns and frustrated drivers. His heart hammered at 120 beats per minute as he began to jog between the stopped cars, his leather dress shoes already protesting against the pavement. 3:56 p.m. 34 minutes. He cut through a side street, navigating by memory and GPS. His breathing came harder now. When was the last time he'd actually run anywhere? The gym membership he paid for but never used flashed through his mind. Sweat soaked through his shirt, but he didn't slow down. The side street opened into an older neighborhood, the kind that Boston developers hadn't gentrified yet. Narrow alleys, brick buildings that had stood since before the revolution, laundromats next to bodegas. Lucas checked his phone. If he cut through this alley, he'd save 5 minutes. He plunged into the narrow passage between 2 buildings, dodging a pile of trash bags, his mind already racing ahead to the meeting. Eleanor would be impressed by the proposal. He'd spent 3 months perfecting it. Richard's pitch was solid, but Lucas's was visionary. He just needed to get there, needed to. The ripping sound cut through his thoughts like a gunshot. Lucas stopped dead, feeling the sudden coolness across his shoulder and chest. He looked down, and his stomach dropped. A rusted metal hook jutting from the brick wall had caught his jacket. The tear ran from his right shoulder down across his chest, a gaping wound in the fabric that exposed his white shirt beneath. He tried to pull the edges together, but it was useless. The tear was too long, too obvious. His hands began to tremble. 4:02 p.m. 28 minutes. No, he whispered. No, no, no. He stood there in that dingy alley wearing a ruined $5,000 suit, 3,000 miles of fabric and dreams torn to shreds. His whole body felt cold despite the summer heat. 27 minutes to the most important meeting of his life, and he looked like he'd been mugged. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so devastating. He'd spent $5,000 on a suit to look successful, only to have it destroyed in an alley that reeked of garbage and broken dreams. Lucas pressed his palms against his temples. There had to be a solution. There was always a solution. That's what separated winners from losers, the ability to adapt, to overcome. But what could he do? He was in the middle of nowhere. Every luxury boutique was at least 10 blocks away, and even if he could find one, they couldn't tailor a suit in 27 minutes. 26 now. His father's voice echoed in his memory. Son, in business, you only get one shot at a first impression. Don't waste it. Lucas's vision blurred, and he realized with horror that tears were forming. When was the last time he'd cried? His father's funeral, 2 years ago, and before that, he couldn't remember. He turned slowly, scanning the alley with desperate eyes. Trash cans, graffiti, a cat slinking past, and then, a small sign barely visible, hanging from a second-floor window, Robinson's Tailoring. Lucas blinked. A tailor shop, here. He looked up at the narrow building squeezed between two larger structures, like a book that didn't quite fit on the shelf. The window was dim, but he could make out the shape of a sewing machine inside. It wasn't much. It definitely wasn't Armani. But it was 25 minutes to the meeting, and it was the only option he had. Lucas ran toward the door. The door's bell chimed as Lucas pushed inside, and he was immediately struck by how different this place was from anywhere he'd been in years. The shop was small, maybe 15 feet wide, with walls lined with fabric bolts in various states of age. An ancient Singer sewing machine sat on a table by the window, and the air smelled of old cloth and machine oil. A single ceiling fan turned slowly, barely stirring the warm air. Behind the counter stood a woman who looked up from her work with calm, assessing eyes. Grace Robinson was 35, though her eyes held the weight of someone who'd lived harder years than that. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her hands, Lucas noticed immediately, were marked with the calluses and small scars of someone who worked with needles and thread daily. She wore a simple blue work shirt and jeans, practical and unpretentious. At a small table in the corner, a boy, maybe 11 or 12, sat hunched over a math textbook, pencil moving steadily across the page. He looked up when Lucas entered, eyes widening slightly. Grace's gaze traveled from Lucas's face down to his torn jacket and back up again. No judgment in her expression, just professional assessment. "Can I help you?" Her voice was measured, neither warm nor cold. Yes, I need." Lucas gestured helplessly at his jacket. "Can you fix this? I have a meeting in 24 minutes, it's urgent." It stopped himself, realizing he was babbling. Grace set down the garment she'd been working on, a maintenance worker's uniform, Lucas noticed, and walked around the counter. She didn't say anything, just gestured for him to remove the jacket. Lucas shrugged out of it quickly, hyper-aware of how out of place he must look. His watch probably cost more than everything in this shop combined. The contrast wasn't lost on him, and for the first time in years, he felt uncomfortably self-conscious. Grace took the jacket, holding it up to the light from the window. Her fingers traced the tear with the gentleness of a surgeon examining a wound. Lucas watched her face, trying to read her expression. Could she do it? Would she even try? The boy, her son Lucas assumed, had abandoned his homework and was now watching with open curiosity. "That's Italian wool," the boy said suddenly. "Super 150 Seth thread count, right?" Lucas blinked, surprised. "Yes. How did you?" "Elijah knows his fabrics," Grace said simply, still examining the jacket. Her tone carried a note of quiet pride. The shop felt impossibly small with 3 people in it. Lucas was acutely aware of every sound: the tick of a clock on the wall, the rustle of fabric, the scratch of Grace's calloused fingertips against the expensive wool. His world, the world of corner offices and power lunches, of conference rooms with views of Boston Harbor, felt very far away. Grace finally looked up. 23 minutes, you said. 22 now." Lucas's voice came out more desperate than he'd intended. "That's not much time for a proper repair." She paused, still holding his jacket. "But I can do something." Relief flooded through him so powerfully his knees almost buckled. "Thank you, God, thank you. I'll pay whatever you want. Double, triple. Just please." Grace held up a hand, silencing him. "Let me work." She moved to her sewing machine with the jacket, and Lucas stood there awkwardly, unsure what to do with himself. He felt like an intruder in this small space, too large and too loud, even when he wasn't speaking. His phone buzzed. "Sarah, where are you?" He couldn't even answer. What would he say? "I'm in a tailor shop in a back alley, hoping a woman I've never met can save my career in 21 minutes. Elijah was still watching him with undisguised interest. The boy's textbook, Lucas noticed, was advanced algebra, definitely beyond typical 6th grade math. The notebook next to it was filled with neat, careful handwriting. On the wall behind Elijah hung a black and white photograph in a simple frame. A man in a firefighter's uniform, smiling at the camera. Next to it, an American flag in a shadow box. Lucas recognized what that meant. A flag presented to the family of a fallen serviceman or first responder. His throat tightened. "Is that your father?" Lucas asked quietly. Elijah's face shifted, pride and sadness mixing. "Yes, sir, he was a firefighter." "Was. He died 3 years ago," Grace said from the sewing machine, her voice carefully neutral. "In Portland, Oregon. House fire." "I'm sorry," Lucas said, and meant it. Grace didn't respond, focused entirely on her work. Lucas watched her hands move with precise, practiced motions. There was something almost meditative about it. The way she threaded the needle, the way her fingers guided the fabric, the way she seemed to know exactly what needed to be done without hesitation. When was the last time Lucas had made something with his hands? Really made something, not just signed papers or typed emails. He couldn't remember. His phone buzzed again. "Richard, Eleanor is asking where you are. Should I tell her you're not coming?" Lucas's jaw clenched, but he stayed quiet. Grace needed to concentrate. 19 minutes left. The sewing machine hummed steadily, a sound Lucas found oddly calming despite his racing heart. He noticed Grace wasn't just stitching the tear closed, she was doing something more elaborate, something with a piece of different fabric. "What are you?" he started to ask. "Trust me," Grace said simply, and somehow, impossibly, Lucas did. Grace's hands moved across the fabric, like a pianist performing a familiar concerto. No wasted motion, no hesitation, just pure muscle memory refined over thousands of hours. Lucas stood motionless, afraid to break her concentration. The shop had fallen into a peculiar silence, punctuated only by the rhythmic sound of the needle-piercing fabric, the gentle whir of the old Singer machine, and Elijah's pencil scratching against paper as he returned to his homework. Tick, tick, tick. The clock on the wall seemed louder with each passing second. 17 minutes. Grace pulled the jacket back from the machine, examining her work under the light. Lucas couldn't see what she'd done yet. Her body blocked his view. She reached for a box beside the machine, pulling out what looked like embroidery thread. "What are you doing?" Lucas asked, unable to contain himself, making it better than it was. Grace didn't look up, threading the needle with deep crimson thread. Lucas's mind raced. Better than it was. The jacket had been perfect before it tore. Armani didn't need improvement, but he bit his tongue. What choice did he have? He watched as Grace began to embroider something over the repair site. Her fingers moved with the kind of precision that couldn't be taught, only earned through years of patient practice. Lucas found himself mesmerized by the motion, the way the needle dipped and rose, creating something from nothing. When was the last time he'd slowed down enough to truly watch someone work, to see craftsmanship in action, rather than just evaluate end results? His phone buzzed. He ignored it. Grace worked in complete silence, her face a mask of concentration.